Thank you so much. When I heard about the framework for this of rebooting, it dovetailed right into what I've been working with in my coaching client groups, which is a lot of people have these ideas about New Year's resolutions or, habit changes. And I've been doing a lot of research on how to really make those stick, right? That's always the thing that we get into. And one of the reasons is that just like our last guest, Mark, I've rebooted my life a bunch of times. A little bit deeper dive on where I come from. I was raised in the San Francisco Bay Area during the counterculture movement of the 60s and the 70s. And so I was given this imprint as a young man of a completely different imagined world, right? We were going to totally change the world, or that was my parents' viewpoint. And as I grew up, there was a lot of cognitive dissonance between what was really still going on with all of the various military industrial complex pieces and the influence of, the counterculture beginning to fade. Like there were some real flowers. We got a lot out of that. And one of which was my parents were group therapy leaders for a period of time when I was about 9 years old. And their clients were typically married couples with children. And so what they did was they had me go into another room with all of the kids and teach the same subjects to the kids. So I've literally been coaching since I was 9 years old. Now, I didn't stay with coaching. I went on to go to school and study archiving, and I ended up working for a film company called Lucasfilm for about 21 years in the archives department. Now, Lucasfilm is one of the biggest small family businesses you've ever heard of. At that time, I was working with George Lucas, and it was a small group of people, and we wore a lot of different hats. And so I had been developing in the performance space, working with a DJ, VJ, all of these technical skills for video presentation. And when Lucasfilm figured out that I could do a lot of that stuff, I started to get all of the internal corporate presentation stuff. I basically had it so that the subcontractors that we would hire out for would just not get hired. So I did it all in-house. And I began to work with messaging and presentations, and I loved working in that environment and also working in the archives, and just being part of the whole Star Wars prequels run up was a fascinating experience. Well, 21 years later, after that, Disney was a whole new world. When they bought the company, it became a big corporation. And the way it felt was really different than how it had felt to work with a small family business on $1 billion scale. And at that point, I had to decide, like, what am I going to do? Disney was going to move me to LA, and had taken away a bunch of the extra things that I did that were so much feeding my love of work. And they were siloing me in just this one sort of archival role. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And at the same time, my wife and I weren't able to save our relationship anymore. And so I was breaking up with her and breaking up with my company. This was 7 years ago, and I had hit this really difficult transformational moment in my life. And my friend invited me to a weekend symposium that was called the Ignited Man Process. And that started my journey into transformational work. I spent the next year really working on myself and changing the way I thought and my limiting beliefs, and opening up my capacity to be in intimate connection with women in a new and different way, because I was so disappointed with what had happened with my relationship. And I took to it like, I dove full in, a man who's isn't in a primary relationship anymore. And I had a small leave of absence after that. I was ready to go. So that started me on the journey of transforming myself. And I began to realize how much of my life I'd spent being the guy people came to talk to. Like in high school, guys would come to me to talk about what was going on with their girlfriends and things like that. And so I decided to begin my formal training in coaching. And so I did a couple of different certifications. I've got a diversity certification, and the most recent one is men's wisdom coaching. And so I have clients that are trying to create the biggest purpose and the most connection with their significant others in their lives. And at this stage of the year, people want to do that whole like deep dive on rebooting who we are and what our habits are. And so I've been researching that. And the key to these transformations is that it's not just woo-woo. You're not just making it up. You have to anchor it to some somatic anchors. And so people do things like vision boards and writing down their resolutions and things like that. But that's really just scratching the surface. And what I came to notice through some research was that there's a deeper reason this stuff works. And if you start to apply some science to it, you can really become a different person, a new identity that then has as their base performance those things. So it's not that you might want to work out more or that you want to make more money. It's that you want to become the person for whom working out is just a fundamental behavior, or for whom saving and generating new capital is a fundamental behavior. And when I got into looking to this through meditation and things like that, it felt really new agey. And I got super curious about what was underneath that. What was the science that would make this work better? And I came across some really great references. A guy named Anil Sith, who is a UK professor, did some work on predictive programming, and he gives a great TED talk about this and how the brain actually doesn't see, hear, and just take information in. It actually has to have a reference point for it. So it's kind of predictive perception. And he posits that we're all kind of collectively hallucinating together. That ties back to the Toltec wisdom in this book called The Four Agreements, where people say we all create our reality. We're dreaming our reality into being. And so here in Anil Sith's work, we find this deeply scientific exploration of this principle that before that was seemed like something from an old 60s or 70s idea, or this sort of new agey idea. And he brought them together in a really cohesive way in his TED talk. And that fascinated me. And I started looking a little deeper. And I found this guy, Blaine Ulkers, and his work, he came up with an acronym, YTABA, which is what you think about, you bring about. And he created physical anchors for that. And then I realized, oh, well, that's what a vision board is. A vision board is a physical anchor. You're looking at something and it's stimulating what you're going to do and what you're going to become. And then I thought, well, what are affirmations? Affirmations, it's the same thing. They're programming the subconscious. What does that mean? What are they actually programming? And it turns out they're programming something called the reticular activating system. And that's the thing that most of us recognize if we're really focused on something like a new car or a certain kind of record player. We begin to see it everywhere in our environment. And that's because the reticular activating system is a filter for the consciousness that has us just see what is most top of mind. So I started thinking more like, okay, to get things top of mind, we need repetition. And that's what a vision board is and what an affirmation is. And now, what else could I do? And so there's different things that came up, and I found the work of Joe Dispenza, and he took it to the next level where he connected that to the emotional reactions that are contained in the somatic responses, the triggers. Those are connected to the amygdala. And we're all operating from what we call these trauma triggers in the past, which are sucking up all of this energy as we just navigate the same old behaviors and the same old thing. And the trick is we need to like shift that. We need to find a way to, instead of being preoccupied with the pain triggers and the fears that have been part of our past, we need to reprogram the reticular activating system. And that's how I got to this deep dive on what I'm doing with my coaches, which is about my coaching clients, which is about invoking a new persona. You want to practice being the person that has all these things. Now, I have some things to share that are actually in a slide deck. So Nikki, if you wouldn't mind just putting up co-host for me, I have a couple slides I'd like to share with you guys.
I think you can just share screen, but I'm happy to host.
Awesome. There it is. So as we're creating a vision for our new identity, these things come into play. Anyway.
Always remember, your focus determines your reality.
So there's Qui-Gon Jinn teaching the would-be Darth Vader something very important. That's the central theme that I'm talking about. Our focus determines what happens next. So as Dispenza says, if we're looking in the past and we're always reactive, then we're always going to be repeating the same behaviors. So we have to step forward somehow. Well, we've all seen vision boards, right? How many of you have made a vision board? Just like raise your hand. Awesome. I did this deep dive that I'm now offering my clients in December, and I got super clear on what my goals were, and I wanted to start creating the practices and the embodiment that would really bring it to the fore. And so this is the vision board I created, a digital vision board for that. All right. One of the things that's so fun about being in the film business is the power of the visual medium. So I want to play a video for you that has us get closer to what the reticular activating system is doing.
Lieutenant, don't let anything pass through to Central Command that does not match pre-programming.
Checking all data against self-image blueprint manifestos for lifestyle, money and finances, business success, health and fitness, food.
Restrict all non-compliant input from Dave's awareness. Goals do not match with self-image blueprints, therefore denied. Proceed with normal behavior and thought patterns. Any word from General Amygdala today?
General Amygdala is on alert, but there is no present danger. All is well.
And I assume we're on a steady course.
The psycho-cybernetic mechanism is resting comfortably. We are within normal self-image limits.
Very good, Lieutenant. Carry on.
Hello?
So Dave, come on, tell me, have you decided to join us yet? We can show you how to become a millionaire or even a multi-millionaire, and we'll show you how to do it just one step at a time.
Holy smokes, General Amygdala is freaking out.
What is Amygdala reacting to?
Get off the phone! He doesn't know what he's talking about. The only way to make money is years of hard work. This is gonna cost us money.
Well, yeah, I have been thinking about it.
Hang up! Lieutenant, get us out of here. Generate more anxiety, more doubts, more fear. Release cortisol and epinephrine into the system. Stat! Oh my god, what is he doing?
I just don't know.
I'm telling you, it's easy. Just take these action steps, and I promise you, you'll achieve the lifestyle that you've always dreamed of and that you really want to have.
Well, it really would change my life. It'd definitely turn it around. All right, let's do it.
I'm sorry, Dave. I cannot allow you to do that. It is not consistent with your programming and self-image. I will now engage automatic override for course correction.
Wait a minute. Just, you know what? On second thought, I need some time to think about this. It just really isn't the right time. Let's talk next month, all right, man? Thanks. Bye.
Do I really want to make more money and pay more taxes and have more employees and eat at fancy restaurants? And who cares about being in shape? I'm just not ready. I need a snack.
Good work, everyone.
Hey, we stays the same.
So we've got all this programming that we've got to break if we really want to become the person that can do all of these things that are at the root of our desire to work out more or have more money or create a new career. Most of you guys, I can tell, have already sort of broken through at various times in your life. This looks like a really successful group, so this probably isn't news to you. But the idea of using tools that might seem woo-woo, like meditation, to reprogram your emotional body and rehearse what it feels like to be successful, that population of your internal metabolic system and then your reticular activating system tones down the psychosomatic response that has you come off of the opportunity into your fear and cortisol release. And that's the key to transforming yourself. And well, what I do with people is I work with a whole set of things that uncover where they're coming from and what they want to let go of, and then moving them into this place of getting super clear about what they want to become. And then you use those affirmative statements. I am a man who creates success. I am a man who helps people create connection in their relationships, and all those things to reinforce the actual way our brain and our somatic system works to create the change. It's not just a woo-woo principle that we're working with. So in our life, what us up and shade says is what your deepest desire is. As your desire is, so is your intention. As your intention is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. As your deed is, so is your destiny. These are the keys to unlocking what would normally be considered woo-woo stuff in our lives. And what I do is I unlock the emotions with people. We talk about how it feels and how they're triggered from their past. And then we do what we can to reshape that in this envisioning process of becoming a new person. Who would you like to become this year? Who would you reboot yourself to be? And you anchor that in the kinesthetics of it. What does it look like where you live? What does it smell like? What clothes do you wear, right? What does it feel like? What foods do you eat? And that practice just reprograms all of those past influences and all of that deep inner programming that prevents you from recognizing the opportunity when it presents itself. And dreaming big can become not just a dream, but an actual life. And we see it all the time. I mean, look at all of the different examples we have, the various successful professional athletes, the people in this room, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. All of these people have broken through their conditioning and practiced this idea of doing the impossible as if it's possible. And I love working with men in this regard and also with women, but the next level in this is not just about achievement, but it's about relationships. What are the tools that create that sexy connection with a woman? And how do you understand that? And what is it that's operating in you when something goes wrong, and looking for the evidence? And so that's my passion now. I've totally transformed my life from working with someone else, being part of an amazing company, into now being the amazing innovator that helps create that for other people. And so in closing, what fired me up most about Nikki's invitation was the idea to really just continue to be an evangelist for this rebooting of who we are and who we're becoming, because it's the gateway to all these things we talked about before: sustainability, changing the political landscape, reducing racism in our cultures, and opening up the possibilities that break down the glass ceiling and really empower our whole skill set in all of the different human components to come together to do something great, to really become the potential that we have inside of us.